10 minutes later, he kicks me as hard as he can in the head.
When Bill Goldberg kicked me in the head and ended my career, it was such a lousy way to go because I didn't know my career was over. You know, I got hurt by Goldberg, and he called me 8 months after it happened and told me that he was sorry, which, you know, really was irrelevant at that point. He never once called me after it happened, or I don't think he ever understood. I don't know that he even does now or even cares that he cost me. Literally, honestly, cost me $16 million in like 2 seconds and ended my career.
I still don't know, but I don't care, because at the end of the day, I can control what I can control, and that is it. I'm not going to sit and complain about anything. I'm just going to try to go out and do my job. I would have loved to have worked a little bit more with Bret Hart, and I would have loved more than anything to have not kicked Bret Hart in the head. You know, and what happened. There have been things said on the internet, either by Bret or other people, that I was malicious and he shouldn't have been in the ring with me. And hey, I'm really sorry, man. But if I really wanted to hurt the guy, he would never have gotten up.
I think, you know, a lot of wrestlers, you know, like even Steve Austin, you see Steve Austin wrestling at WrestleMania this year. And it's like, how sweet that is, you know, like how would have been nice if I could have wrestled in my, you know, like have a proper retirement where I could, you know, to get hurt in the ring and never really get a good goodbye.
Send off.
Never get the right send off. You know, it's always missing. It's always a, you know, and I think for me, it's always been a bit of a sore spot. It makes me kind of mad that,
bittersweet.
You know, some guys flying all the way over to Saudi Arabia and making $3 million in a match, and the same guy as the guy that kicked me in the head. Never thought of, you know, thinking about me or what, you know, what he cost me and my family, and you know what he did to me, and you know the kick that I got from Bill Goldberg was a really dangerous kick to give somebody. And I don't think he ever showed any remorse, or frankly, I don't think he gave a shit, you know, to be honest.
Today's date is August 7th, 2022. Does Bret Hart like Bill Goldberg?
No.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I put Bret Hart is still up here, man. I mean, he's an idol to anybody and everybody who would have ever been in this business. There was absolutely no malicious intent whatsoever. None. Zero. So, does it bother me? Yeah, I'll take it to my grave. But, you know, also, I gotta say, man, and I'm kind of I'm at a turning point. I'm done saying I'm sorry. I've said it a million times, and I'm not gonna continue to tear myself down. I'm done. I said I'm sorry. If you can't accept my apology, I'm really, you know, it is what it is. You got to move on, and I've moved on. So gotcha. I won't be breaching this subject too much more.
My fellow cosmic brethren, what's going on with y'all? Hopefully y'all enjoyed y'all's watching Raw, or hopefully y'all enjoyed y'all day, just as usual. I know it's any other day for me, but it is what it is. Don't worry, y'all. I know y'all was probably expecting to see me tonight, but don't worry, I'll be back, obviously, absolutely, for tomorrow for NXT Heatwave, that pay-per-view. I'll be there for that Tuesday night, so don't worry, you know, you'll see me back around, or whichever comes to my table next. And I would say recently, I haven't been popular, you know, it hasn't been popular when it comes to my outlook and my critiques when it comes to wrestling. You know, I know I've been being that I'm early, as you can already tell, I've had some kind of a pushback. I would say already that, you know, not exactly a favorite and I don't intend to be. You know, if you don't like what I say, or, you know, critiques, outlook, or what I believe, and my, you know, in my way of wrestling, then yeah, you don't have to be here. You know, it's not that hard to see yourself out and don't look back. So, just like at the end of it, you know, if you want somebody else to preach what you want to hear, then, you know, there's other, especially in wrestling, there's millions of other channels out there like that tell you what you want to hear, especially the giant ones that likes to pander a lot. Of course, you know, you get that in them a lot. So, you know, go to their channels. But, you know, I'm going to be, especially myself, you know, I'm going to always to appreciate, to, you know, spill it and for detail to detail, and, you know, yeah, fully support and always say what I actually believe. I'm gonna also sit down. Yeah, that's enough. That's enough walking for me. I just wanted to walk a little bit, but let me just say also, so, you know, I'm very appreciative, and, you know, always continue to say that I'm very grateful for as much as people that would like to listen and, you know, agree, or to just, you know, yeah, want to take time out of their, you know, take your own time and be able to, you know, listen and, you know, say what I have to say, listen and, you know, be able to watch what I have to say. You know, I'm very grateful for that. And, you know, I believe I'm astounded to have as much as support and, you know, having such a community as now, you know, where you just, where you all would want to be able to, you know, sit back and watch me and, you know, can take in and maybe agree and just be able to watch too. And just like that's, I've always thought, even now, that's why I always do the best that I can. You know, I do the best to my abilities to always, from now, you know, always to the teeth of the bone. I'll always do my best to, you know, make sure that it's as cinematic and as greatly for y'all. You know, always, so y'all can always, you know, enjoy, you know, what's in front of you, what you're watching, as well as, you know, whether you do or not agree, and taking into my, you know, outlook, critiques on wrestling. You definitely not gonna like, probably some of you definitely not gonna like when I'm about to go in on this, especially, yeah, I've heard when it, you know, the kick to Bret, and when it comes to Goldberg and Bret Hart, you know, especially what went down to Starrcade '99, you know, those are just like the Montreal screw job. That's been one of the incidents and, you know, situations that's been replayed, you know, throughout history, in the history of wrestling. You know, so, and it's like one of the things that you can always count on. You know, you know, Rick to always talk about and promise that he'll always have his last match. CM Punk dissing WWE, and Bret Hart burying Goldberg any chance that he gets. You know, that's always going to be a thing. Always a trending topic. And whatever you're going to hear when it comes to those, you know, in wrestling. And, you know, me personally, I will say, and just from a wrestling aspect, that, yeah, I do, absolutely, you know, Bret has always, without a question, as if everybody already knows, that, you know, Bret Hart is one of the greatest of all time. You know, he's one of the GOATs. No question about that. He will always go down as being a staple in the WWF and for wrestling. You know, there is no ifs or buts about that. You know, this is a first for me. You know, a first for y'all. And I'm basically getting it all raw right now, because obviously I'm going to revisit this down in the future. But, you know, I just wanted to talk a bit about it before, especially since recently. And, you know, just always being it brought up in discussion, and I just felt the need also just I'll probably start doing that also. Whenever I feel the need to talk about something, I'll probably just get into it. And by this point, when it comes to like going behind the scenes and backstage politics, when it comes to wrestling, beneath all that, when I started to go into really dig and go into my research and finding out and what I know, and like I said, because I was so infatuated with wrestling at that point, I wanted to find out about it all. I wanted to hear about every story and situation and just anything that had to do with wrestling, or what might have had happened just in the light, but just if it came to between two individuals, what would happen between them. So I would say 2015 is pretty much a little bit after is when I graduated into adulthood, young adulthood, pretty much after high school is when I had say I would say that is when I started to really dig deep and research beyond the in-ring stuff. I would go beyond that, beyond backstage and into the politics of it, and to the intense and basically the drama of it all also as well. So, and between in this situation, Goldberg and Bret Hart, first of all, I would say that I never liked Goldberg. He definitely wasn't one of my favorites, whether a wrestler or personally. Especially hearing about how he felt about the situation at all. Definitely even more so. Because the first time I heard about Goldberg, I was like, of course, just like any kid, you probably liked, just like a Brock Lesnar and a Big Show. You were drawn to the aesthetic and such the sheer, power and the strength and be able to actions that they can do, and especially in the ring. So of course you were drawn to it like a zoo. So the first time I saw Goldberg, it was it was pretty good. It was like especially in the ring, he was pretty nice thing to look at, and it was just like, especially just growing up, when you see that and see how well he played off of that, and how how it was just like how Goldberg was supposed to be this giant big monster, was just the railroad through everybody. That that definitely caught me on, and I like that a bit. Of course, it's like as soon as I got older, and of course doing my research and knowing what I know about beyond the drama and the backstage behind of it, and you see beyond, and once you really get to know what was behind the intentions of him, especially going into WCW, of what they had with him, where he was basically like a caged beast. The whole thing about Goldberg was just that he was a caged beast, and that was his character, and which is why the length of matches that he had was so short behind that. And I felt like, the more he did wrestle, it was in fear that he could have caused somebody or, another wrestler harm. And, WCW obviously didn't care for that, as they, basically still let him on. It's like, once you read and going into WCW and finding out what you know, and then you just read further going into WCW, and just everybody talking about and going into the the history of WCW, because there were many wrestlers too, including Undertaker and Austin, obviously Bret, and many others have talked about how just terrible, horrible, catastrophic, chaotic, about how just Bischoff was just on a leash when it comes to between him and Hogan, and how he was just, he was told to do whatever by Hogan, when to eat, shit, and sleep. And just you can obviously believe that too, because that's why that's because I just two of the most when it comes to Bischoff, he's another one who I just can't stand also as well, because he's like he understands, he knows what he did, but it's like, especially just talking about, just continuously talking about and bragging about the fact how he went toe to toe with WWE, and which he did, but you still beg before your knees, and then you took a swift kick right 6 feet, 20 feet deep beyond. And so I'll just continue to laugh at that when it comes to him just bragging about the fact that he went 83 consecutive weeks, even the name of his podcast, and brags about that continuously to this day. And that's that's laughable in itself. But yeah, it all goes down to like how, because they were recklessly, because Goldberg couldn't even wrestle. Like, they had this guy, he was this guy, and they had him there and basically still training him, but he had no training experience. He had no knowledge of doing what you had to do and what you needed being in the ring. It's like they put him out there, and he doesn't know what he's doing, and he's being carried by others, and just out there, just by a split of a second, he can just like straight out just hurt somebody, and somebody can just get critically injured, especially just being in the air within the move. And that's just the word, just whatever position that they're in, and they can be in in danger of being put in a position of where obviously careers are over and done with, and they have no chance of having no control over whichever part of their bodies anymore, because of what happened and what Goldberg had did to them. So that's like a whole nother story in itself. Either with that, the whole situation with Goldberg and WCW just recklessly sending him out there, which was the whole point for the matches in themselves. Because I bet you most people don't even know about that, which probably the most, that was like in itself, and why the matches were so short also, and why they came up with the character basically being a caged beast, an animal, a caged beast, and just being let out, being thrown to the wolves basically is what his character and what the presentation of him was like. And and it's just, you're taking a risk every time he goes out there, because he can hurt anybody, and at any time, knowing that he has no knowledge in what he can do, and being how big he is also. So that's like a very also dangerous in itself, because he's like 6'4". Goldberg is, I don't know, he probably cut some more weight, but in his peak he was like 6'4", and I know they like to exaggerate weight and height when it comes to sports, but especially WWE. Yes, especially WWE. They like to go way up further back, and they like to exaggerate everything. So, but he was like, it's like 6'4" and 285 pounds, or they said 291 or something like that. Basically, like, but also Batista. Because, basically like, almost a 300, and that's like pure muscle. Just out of it, just like, So that's also just very dangerous, because, you be in a situation like that, and, basically an untrained wrestler, and, he don't even know what to do. And, one thing could go left or right, wrong, and, somebody could just be in injury, seriously severe injury. So by that point, it was just near the factor, because at that point, WCW was down, just like ECW. It's not I would say besides, because like ECW was, even from the business and the in ring, they were bad all around. But when it comes to that, they were much more when it came to politics in WCW. But yeah, so it was just a whole hectic place being there, and you have somebody that has no experience in wrestling at all, and you're having him out there around your talent, and he can, put the hurt on everybody, especially being how big he is. So it's very dangerous, and Bret, he probably should have knew more about what he was getting into, but I guess because this is coming off hot of the heels of him coming from WWF, and what happened between the screw job, the Montreal screw job, and that. So he wasn't really focused on that. He just wanted to make his money, and continue his career. And then when you have people running their mouths and trying to put themselves in the situation, because the whole thing about Bret being bitter and still carrying on, having grit in his soul about how about the situation and what went down, and between carrying bad blood between himself and Goldberg. When people would most likely in that situation, they would be the exact, if not worse than Bret Hart in that situation. It's like that's a joke in itself. And it's like you can't even begin to put yourself in Bret's situation, because just everything after the screw job, Bret has just been on a spiral, and it's like he lost his brother, lost because the British Bulldog beyond that point also as well. It's a lot of other people that he lost within his family, and it's like he lost his career also as well, money, and Bret suffered a lot. He went through a lot. He had a stroke, and leading all after the years beyond that, and it's like he definitely got a feel for Bret. It's just because being in his shoes, and he just by that point had lost everything, and whether to do with his own income, his career, and then some family members within his circle, it's a lot to go through. And then of course, injuries, lifelong injuries, and probably to some extent Goldberg obviously feels remorse for what he did or not, and I'm not taking that away from him. And it's like he's obviously because when speaking about it and talking about it, and then having probably in what way imaginable can he say he's sorry? But it's like especially at the time, if he was truly sorry also as well. And it's like being in a situation, it's like, why even continue to wrestle and be beyond that point where you just can put others at risk and put harm to others? Probably not even, I don't know if most likely, because I don't know if Undertaker talked about it, because even with because what had happened, I think it was because this match could have happened years ago, and the match between Goldberg and Undertaker, what was already, because the lifelong injuries, but at that point was it hit sharper even further when Goldberg, because he was much more older too, so that was much more of a risk, because obviously probably didn't have half of what he had in his prime. So because he also injured Undertaker also is what I'm talking about. And that one thing went down, it's like, yeah, it's like if that truly felt sorry about the situation of what happened with Bret and what he did to Bret, it's like, and for him to just talk about how he could have did it too regardless, and for him to put it that way, it also, and for him to continuously, even though he said he's moved on and tired of talking about it, because he's even said himself that it bothers him. And it's like I said, him being obviously, if whether he's a fan of Bret, and happened in the situation that it did. And like I said, it's like if you were truly sorry, and it's like, or just why even be in wrestling? Why even, just like he said on numerous times himself, like he was never in it to be a professional wrestler. So it's like, yeah, like the thing with Goldberg, and it's like him saying that you were basically like a hired gun. And it's, why are you even in it up to the extent that you are in if you're just in it for money? And it goes to, and what he said about it also, that he could have hurt Bret if he wanted to or not, it just goes to show you that right there, and him continuously talking about it, it just goes to show you right there, then and there, that, you know, he's not sorry at all. And like we all know, you know, to some extent, you know, wrestling is just like everything else, you know, wrestling is a business, but it's like, you know, for you to say that you have some kind of remorse, or, you know, that you wouldn't want to put anybody in hurt, and then say that you could have, and, you know, to still be in a place and where you could, you know, that you don't have any experience, and you could put, because he can, and it's like, because you know that regardless, the companies will still pay him money. And it's like, for you to put it yourself, you say one thing and then you do another. It's like, no, you really don't care. That's why also I've respected, and I have so much admiration in Bret, because he's one of the few, probably the rare one, that, you know, that will say it like it is, and, you know, talk about it and say it, speak his mind, and, you know, completely will just, you know, bring his mind out in the open, and will just, you know, he will lay out everything on the table. So it's not like he's been asked, you know, because people, you know, of course he's going to ask the question. He's going to get asked the question continuously or not. But it's like, for him to continue to address it, then obviously, yeah, because he even addressed it himself, that he said that he has an issue with it. And that, you know, obviously that, because, you know that people, that you're just, that you could care less, and that whether you put people or could potentially, you know, end somebody's life, you know, as long as you're making a buck, that's okay with you, right? You know, as long as you're skating free and getting paid for it, and, you know, hurting people, it's like, that's just, at least you're getting a check. It's completely unnecessary, and it's irresponsible, and it's a damn shame. And especially a damn shame because, you know, like I said, he doesn't care less, or could care less at all. Because, you know, the times, you know, him saying the times that he said that he could have had intention of, you know, putting more hurt on Bret, and for him to continuously be in the spot that he's being put in, to still wrestle and put others in danger, you know, potentially put others in danger. And it's like, no, of course you don't care, because, you know, you're getting paid, and that's the only thing you care about, whether, you know, injure or could potentially put somebody else's life in danger. So it's like he could care less, and it's like, yeah, it's a shame what happened to Bret, and that's what's become of Bret. And yeah, it's like definitely one of the wrestlers that I just can't, you know, even stand to look at, or I just, you know, just hate, because they're just the absolute worst. And Goldberg is one of them. You know, one of the worst wrestlers ever. And to be in the ring is Goldberg. And it's just like, for him to continue to do so, to still be within the ring where he can potentially put others at harm. And it's like his stories of him sabotaging Bray Wyatt. And it's like, yeah, it's like, he definitely doesn't care at all. And, you know, he's just glad that he didn't get much more heat, is probably what he's actually trying to say. And he's thankful for it, but he didn't get much more punishment, and, you know, for the situation. Because I guarantee you, I guarantee if it would have happened at all, but Probably like I don't know, cause probably if it was in another situation in WWE much earlier, when it was just getting started out, like cause I don't know, cause he also had a probably dispute within WWE that caused him to the first time around to leave. So, you know, I beg to differ. It probably would have been in a different situation. Because it probably would have still been the same thing. I beg to differ if WWE would have cared regardless anyway. Also, so yeah, you know, yeah, my heart goes out for Bret, and it's just like I said, it's like completely sad what happened to him, and yeah, that's everything that I wanted to talk about today and bring to y'all. And yeah, it's an utter shame.